Hey! Hey, wait! What are you doing? Those are my things! No, wait, stop breaking my pots! Stop stealing that's 20 rupees I've been saving for my entire life gone! Maybe our hero isn't quite so great after all.
Link, the hero of Hyrule. The man that all men should hope to aspire to be and all women should, well, you know. The legendary hero that destroys evil over and over, all at the cost of the people he's supposed to be saving. In this video, I'm going to be taking a proper look at Link. Not just the hero of the world, but all iterations of Link, because trust me, there's something up with every one of them. We're going to be looking at whether or not these heroes deserve that title, the hero of Hyrule, or whether there's more than meets the eye to these generational knights. I mean, yeah, I suppose Link has saved the world every single time he manifests. But let's be open and honest here, he's also kind of a loose cannon. He does what he wants, when he wants, and how he wants. But should people be scared of him rather than revere him as the hero? So to answer this, let's first of all go back to the very crux of Link and the Zelda games. Let's go back to what Link is known for being able to do. Link is a knight of the royal family. He protects the royal family, or Zelda, in many of the mainline 3D Zelda games. He protects the royal family, or Zelda, in many of the mainline 3D Zelda games. Maybe except Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, where he's either too young to have said role, or is busy travelling new lands. In the Wind Waker he is also very young, but by design he is protective of his sister, who turns out to be Princess Zelda later on in the game. The ironic thing is though, as a knight, Link is pretty rubbish. And I use that phrase very, very strongly, considering the backlash that I got in a previous video over saying that Hyrule was a pretty rubbish leader. In fact, I actually think that every iteration of Link should probably have been fired from their post, immediately. In Skyward Sword, Link is training to be a knight, but while he's out on a romantic rendezvous with the girl he's sworn to protect, like seriously guys, keep it in your pants, Zelda gets swept up by a giant whirlwind made of sand. Link then spends the entire journey chasing her down, only for her to need to complete her mission and walk away from him. Breath of the Wild sees Zelda try to awaken her powers using the sacred springs, but prior to that, Link gets bested in battle and Zelda has to take him to the Shrine of Resurrection and let him have a power nap for at least 100 years. He doesn't just get bested in battle, he fails his sworn duty, and this means that Zelda must go on her own to try and awaken her power. In Tears of the Kingdom, it's all much the same again. Zelda falls down a giant hole and ends up being transported to the past via a shiny stone. Link spends the entire game chasing after her, only to find that she's changed herself into a gargantuan dragon that still has human emotion apparently, as she cries all over the land and leaves giant puddle memories for him to piece together what happened, and eventually reclaim the Master Sword. That, by the way, is buried in her head. How? In every iteration where Link has been the royal knight, so to speak, he has failed at his duty. She is still imprisoned the moment she stops pretending to be a ninja, and Link again has to come to her rescue. This one is more on Zelda though, to be honest, but it just keeps going to show that he is prone to not being able to keep her safe to begin with. Link is a bad knight, but other than his general lack of aptitude towards his job, that doesn't mean that people should be scared, just wary of him. Now, however, what really makes me think that he's not the squeakiest of clean characters is his pure intimidation factor. I mean, no matter what iteration of him exists, Link either is or on his way to becoming a master swordsman. The Wind Waker is probably the exception here, but even throughout his journey from Outset Island, Link is still very much a capable swordsman despite being a child and having not wielded a weapon before. I guess he's a prodigy. As a result of being a knight and a potential or recognised hero, it is commonplace for Link to carry a sword and shield upon him at all times, but the buck doesn't just stop there. In fact, Link has mastery of not just broadswords, a single-handed sword to be used with a buckler-style shield, but rather of every type of sword. Claymore, scimitars and knives also. Experts say that it would take roughly 50 hours of training for every sword type. And let's not forget that Link in every game, aside from Tears of the Kingdom, where he's notably older than any other Link at roughly 22 years old, are incredibly young. at either 10 or 17 years old. Not only is he proficient with blades of all forms, but also spears, boomerangs, hammers, and archery. In fact, if it takes circa 50 hours of training per weapon type to become proficient in them, on just those types mentioned here, that's 200 hours of training just for the swords, and 350 hours for all disciplines apart from the bow. I've left this one off though, as it's a different type of skill, one that takes roughly 2 to 5 years to master if practiced solus every day. Now, this wouldn't sound so bad, as 350 hours is roughly 15 days. But that's if Link is training every hour of every day. He's clearly not, he's nowhere near that. First of all, let's factor in the stat that no one uses when we play Zelda games, and that's sleep. While in the game none of us allow Link to sleep and he ends up fighting against Ganondorf in a sleep-deprived state of tiredness, we should probably let him sleep between practices. Soldiers require 6 to 7 hours of sleep per day, so take that out of the equation. Link therefore has 17 to 18 hours of practice time, right? Well, no. Not quite. See, there's media activities such as cooking. Cooking, especially the way it's done in Hyrule, is quite time extensive, and cooking in a pot would take a minimum of 30 minutes, possibly 1 full hour. Let's take the extreme. So now he's down to 16 hours in the day. Then there's travel, and other than Tears of the Kingdom where he can build his way and fly around the world at will, travel in Hyrule is extremely extensive. It was worked out on Reddit that the map of Breath of the Wild was roughly 360 square kilometers. That whole area though is not needed to work out, say, how far Link has to go to travel to the training grounds for the royal family. Based on the fact that he is a royal knight, I'd presume it's safe to say that he trains at the castle each day. And by extension he would need to travel from his home points. In Tears of the Kingdom this is Hateno Village. However, I want to make things a little bit easier, and as such, we're going to take it from Lookout Landing. So let's look at, right now, just how far we're looking at when we look at the distance between Hyrule Castle and Lookout Landing. If we take the coordinates of Lookout Landing with an x value of minus 230, a y value of 150, and a z value of 50, and in Hyrule Castle at minus 138, 997, and 300, we can see that there's actually a bit of distance between them. We now take the values and work out the differences, giving us a difference in coordinates of 92, 847, and 250. We then take the results, square them, and add them together to give us a value of 77,837. Take the square root and we get ourselves a grand total of 887.9 kilometers. That, by the way, is the distance in equivalence of going from London to Limoges in France, which is absolutely insane. The time it takes that to travel on foot, according to Google Maps, is a whopping 5 days and 5 hours of solid travel with no breaks. That also includes a 1.5 hour ferry trip. But when Link makes this walk, it seems to take 1 day or 1 night cycle, indicating that it takes around 12 hours for him to make that journey on foot. So for Link to make that journey to train is, well, out of the question. And that would be great as well if Link actually lived in Lookout Landing. But Link has 2 houses in this game, one in Tarry Town and the other one in Hateno Village. Hateno Village is a whopping 4,771 kilometers away, while Tarry Town to the castle ground should come in at around 4,128 kilometers. It would appear as if this has caused us a whole new issue. See, at first I was happy to try and explain that Link has to travel back and forth, and therefore simply doesn't have the time to invest in training the sheer amount of weapon skills and archery as we're first seeing, and therefore at the ages between 17 and 22, has not been alive long enough to master even 2 of his chosen weapons. But now we have someone who is literally defying the rules of speed. I just want to put this into some form of perspective here. Link is travelling somewhere in the region of 5 times quicker on foot than should be physically possible. He does not stop for rest. He doesn't get hungry or thirsty, not until the Master Mode is released. He just keeps on going. What am I saying here? Well, what I'm saying is that in order for Link to reach Hyrule Castle from Lookout Landing in 1 night, he's got to be travelling at approximately 40 kilometers per hour. That, by the way, is possible if Link is sprinting the entire way. However, that sort of speed has only ever been achieved once, by Usain Bolt over a distance of just 100 meters. After roughly 400 meters, the human body requires more oxygen to sustain the pace, and therefore, the maximum speed of the human being slows considerably. The closest record to the distance Link needs to cover here was by ultramarathon runner Dean Kamazes, who in 2005 ran 350 miles, or 560 kilometers, in 80 hours and 55 minutes with no sleep. Link though would be covering an extra 300 kilometers, and will be looking at doing it at sprint speeds, in an attempt to do it in just 12 hours, something that the human body just cannot sustain. And notice how I highlighted the word human. I mean, we already have two factors that indicate that Link cannot be human. He is overly proficient in all combat techniques with just weapons at the age of 17, when each discipline should take him 3 to 5 years to learn. He has zero time to train because he's always travelling, and on the note of travelling, he does so at a speed that is achievable for a human, but not at the distance he travels for. Oh, and you know what else bothers me? The fact that you haven't left a comment already and got involved in the discussion below. I love hearing your comments, it really makes my day, and I can't wait to see what you guys come up with. While you're there, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and like the video as well. All over the place, we see these construct parts, the Zone 9 materials. They are great for building all sorts of contraptions. Link is the only one ever that knows exactly how to operate all of this machinery, and is not just content doing so, but is able to make a whole new vehicle type and be able to drive it to perfection instantly. Either he has some uncanny way of learning abilities or skills without ever having to have used these items or skills before, or he is hiding something massive from us. And that something massive is that Link is not human or Hylian. He may well be the hero of the Hylians, but he is not one of them. He simply can't be. I mean, no one is as skilled as him with anything at all in this world. I mean that in a kind way because the stable trotters are amazing at playing music, but they can't even ride in a horse-drawn carriage without nearly falling out of it. No one can travel at nearly the same speeds as Link either, and shouldn't be expected to because it's unreasonable to expect anyone to run for 800 kilometers or over and not stop or break for water, food or sleep. So, if he isn't human, what is Link? At the very start of the series, it is told via Demise that a reincarnation of the goddess, his own hatred, an evil god as it were, and a hero would always follow on from one another. Zelda is the reincarnation of a goddess, not a human being at all, but rather a deity. Ganondorf is not only an evil king, but a reincarnation of the hatred of an actual demon, and is named the Demon Lord, a supernatural creature of evil alignment. These two characters are direct reference to the gods of the land. Gods should be omnipotent, omnipresent, omniscient, and well, everything else omni, so they're, well, unkillable. This makes sense as to why they seal Ganondorf each time. And if you haven't finished the game, skip ahead from right now to the next chapter because we're about to get spoilery. Ganondorf is indeed sealed in every game, apart from Tears of the Kingdom and Wind Waker, where he is defeated and seemingly killed. Normally he would be sealed because his power is far too much for the hero and the princess as a power couple of sorts to best fully. This is because the power he holds is indeed not far from or is the power of a god, and in Tears of the Kingdom's case this is only amplified by Ganondorf's secret Stone of Darkness. Ganondorf was originally created out of Demise's hatred. Demise was the counter-god to the goddess Hylia and was therefore the god of darkness, especially as he is able to place an eternal curse upon the world that is Hyrule. This hatred remains. The eternal curse of the mad god still caused this incarnation of Ganondorf, and it's this hatred that is amplified when Ganondorf gets hold of the secret Stone of Time. It transforms almost immediately into one of darkness. Ganondorf's hair grows and his power amplifies significantly, so Ganondorf becomes Super Saiyan? The stones reflect the user. After all, a scene with all of the sages, the stones reflect the user, and this is seen whenever the sages receive one of the secret stones. The stones mold to the user and amplify their power, and what Ganondorf becomes in this instance is absolutely terrifying. In Tears of the Kingdom, essentially, Ganondorf has a latent power of gods which is drawn out of him the moment the stone reacts with his Gerudo crown. Now, what could possibly kill a god? Not much, let me tell you that now for nothing. In fact, according to most religions or belief systems, there is only one thing that can truly kill a deity, and that is another god. We know about Hylia, but her powers never kill Ganondorf, just seal him away. But in Tears of the Kingdom, things are different. Ganondorf is now not sealed, he is defeated, and therefore is now dead. Permanently. Link is the killer, and therefore a god. This, while I know, I'm really stretching actually explains a lot. Link can pick up any weapon and know what to do with it in a professional manner. He can travel absurd amounts of distances in world record beating times with no food or water if need be. Link instinctively both knows and understands the workings of ancient devices, both divine beasts and zonai constructs. And most importantly, Link can repel any forces of evil. Link is always the only one who can defeat Ganondorf, a mad god of evil, and only gods can commit deicide. But I hear you. I get it. Link is a god. Big deal. How does this impact the good people of Hyrule? Well, infinitely. See, the people of Hyrule know Link as their champion, as their hero. They know him as the one shining light in amongst the darkness, and yes, all of this is incredibly true. But they're also aware of his immense power. This is why the people of Hyrule, while they ask for help, are always ultra polite, even when Link has just barged in, ransacked their house, broken all of their pots, and stolen their life savings. The people of Hyrule don't respect Link, not in the way that it would seem at least, but they fear him. They ask him to do menial tasks like help rig an election or rebuild their horse-drawn carriage. They are begging for someone to help them, and why Cece can't hand out her own goddamn mushrooms is another point entirely. She's probably way too busy stuffing her face with, other vegetables? But these requests are more like prayers that Link answers. He provides the answer, he hands out the mushrooms, he attaches the wheels to the cart, and actually, it's the Ultra Hand, or rebuilding quests that prove this. In my last video, I explained something really important to the game. No one sees Link's arm. It's in his head only, an impact of Raru's magic over more than likely. When I first wrote that theory, it seemed like it was just good for something a little bit different. But actually, this theory has ramifications on this theory too. No one sees Link's arm, the magic that comes from it. They only see the after effect. When these characters see Link lifting a plank of wood towards them, they just cower and hide. And this is because they're just seeing a flying piece of wood. No magic stream coming from Link's arm to the wood. When they ask their request to, let's say, fix the horse cart, they aren't aware that Link can actually fix their problems. And so they are in essence verbalizing a hope. These wishes are in effect prayers that only Link can answer. And that's why the people of Hyrule don't help one another. Because personally, I think it would have been awesome to see interactions like that with Hylians stopping on the road to help their fellow kind. But instead, the people of Hyrule all blindly pray that someone will come to rescue them. They believe in a god, but they don't know who the god is that is helping them. And Link obliges. Of course, this is without the knowledge that he is also a god. Or, at bare minimum, a human turned god, sort of a demigod of sorts. And that is the beauty of this situation. Link has godly powers. He has powers beyond any mortal, and that's even without the Zonai arm. Just his weapon abilities and travelling and climbing abilities show that much, but he doesn't necessarily know about said powers. He's just known as a prodigy. It's never questioned, because why would the people of Hyrule investigate his powers and either draw his ire, or no longer be able to get them to retrieve their plushies out of a lake for them? It's a double-edged sword. The people of Hyrule should fear Link, but they've grown dependent on him helping them. Without his help, they would have to rely on themselves, or each other. But if I were you, the populace of Hyrule, I would be horribly afraid. After all, no one of you matches anywhere near the power of this demigod, and if he can defeat someone with arguably more power than he has, he may well be unstoppable. We've seen in the past that in order to stop him, dark versions of him have been created from his very essence. A part of his spirit seemingly is split away from him, which leads to him needing to defeat himself in order to progress. If this abomination was ever to be released on the latest version of Hyrule, the people of Hyrule would be absolutely ruined, because while this version of this demigod is virtuous, Dark Link would not be as such. On a side note, just how awesome would that be as a premise for DLC? Nintendo, make it happen. Bring us Dark Link. We already have the means to make it happen in the form of the spiritual secret stone. And on that note, I'm out of time for today. So please don't forget to subscribe if you've enjoyed this madness. Leave a comment whether you agree or disagree, it's all in the nature of good fun. And don't forget to like the video for it to be seen more. Thank you so much. Bye!